Good morning. We have a lot of children here today, even very, very young. That's pretty exciting. Very exciting. All right, get all set up here. I have a question for you. Have you ever stopped to watch ants? Scarlett, Max, Isla, yeah. Declan, have you watched the ants? What did you see? Do they just kind of walk slow? What do they do? They kind of go fast, don't they? Yeah, they scurry about the sidewalk. They go really fast. Do they go all different directions? Some. Yep. Hurrying this way and that. Have you ever... And you stomp on them. Very good. Yep, we're going to get to that. Yep, Max is on the ball as usual. Wow, this is right by our house. This is an anthill. It looks like just a bunch of dirt, but there are ants in there. Yeah, so this is right by our driveway. We have ants in our yard, and you can't. And then I tried to take a close-up. I should have got my husband's telescopic lens or up-close lens, whatever, but I didn't have time for that. So anyway, if you look where I circled, there's actually ants. Those are the ants in there, because I kind of moved the dirt around so they'd scurry all around.
Where's the little stuff?
They're in there, but they're just so tiny. They're so tiny. All right, now I've got another question, and that is, have you ever seen ants go in a straight line? Like, have you? Like on this? Sometimes they do, don't they?
Actually, no.
You've never seen ants? I bet you. Well, you know what? After church, we will go outside, if it's all right with your mom and dad, and we will look on the sidewalk and we will find some ants for you. I think we can find them. Really.
That's a big ant?
Yeah, we're going to get to that. Right. So, those ants that were marching in a straight line, I want to tell you a really quick story. When my kids were little, which is a really long time ago, but we lived in a state called Missouri and a town called Fredericktown, Missouri. And I remember I don't know if that guy back there, that's my son, remembers this, but we were outside and we saw some ants. I think they were army ants. We looked it up later, and they were going in a line near the steps. Did you? And we followed them. We followed them all along the yard. We lived next to a church. We kept following them. They got close to the church. I bet they went from the back door of our church out to where the playground, the swings and the slide are. That's how far those army ants were going in the grass. They were traveling somewhere. So they were marching in a line. Well, as Declan noticed, this big ant, every colony of ants, get my right picture, has a queen ant. And you know what she does all day? What does she do all day? She lays eggs. Max is right.
Wait, do ants eat caterpillars?
Well, she lays the eggs, and then, yes. See, we have such knowledgeable people here. And then they turn into larvae, and all the ants, so that's her job. She just lays eggs all day long and eats. And then here's the ants at work.
When you look close to the ants, then you see them big.
Yes, here's the ants at work. Some of them are taking care of the eggs, and some of them are taking care of the larvae, which the ants hatch out, then they become larvae, then they turn into a pupa, then it becomes an ant. So it's a whole process. But the anthill has to be, see, they're all busy, they're all scurrying around. They all work, and they keep the anthill clean and protected. And then, as Max talked about, you saw an ant that was carrying what? Food, right? Can you get down just a little more? Declan, yeah, then Peyton can see. Okay, then you see there, he's found a dead bug there. And this one's getting a seed. And then I have one more. Oh, look at this is a bigger picture. Look at, it's got a ladybug that they're getting, probably a dead ladybug, and a seed. Yep. So they're working. They're finding food. They're bringing it back to the nest.
Watch Finding Nemo.
Well, and that's another thing that's got finding in it, isn't it? And they were working too to find things. Well, do ants worry about who's doing what? Or how hard they're working? Nope.
No.
They just see something that needs to be done. They do it. Do you think there's any of the ants that maybe just sit around and watch the other ants work besides the queen?
No.
She's busy eating and laying eggs. Okay, what if a little ant saw some garbage on the floor, Declan, and the little ant said to herself, I didn't put it there, so I'm not going to pick it up. I didn't make the mess, I'm not going to clean it up. Do you think, what would happen if the ant decided to do that? Would it get messy in the ant colony where they live?
Yeah. No.
It would get messy if nobody cleaned up, right?
No. They would.
And the queen would get mad. There's that.
They would just take it away.
They do, because that's what ants do, right?
And if the ant was an adult and ants were anything like humans, the rest of the colony would probably be like that. So.
Good point. Scarlett is just preaching my sermon here. She said if the ants would be like some humans, then it would, say the rest of it, Scarlett, it would
All be like
right, they wouldn't clean up. But God, of course, made the ants. He gave each one of them a job to do. They don't need someone telling them what to do all the time. They just do it. So the Bible talks about ants. Did you know this?
No.
It does. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 6, but I'm going to read it from an easier version, but it's right in Proverbs, right here in my Bible. And it says, take a lesson from the ants, you lazy fellow. Learn from their ways and be wise, for though they have no king to make them work, yet they labor hard all summer gathering food for winter. Makes sense, doesn't it? Because in the snow it would be pretty hard for the ants to get around. But all you do is sleep. When will you wake up? So King Solomon is the one that wrote the book of Proverbs in the Bible with God's inspiration. And so he was telling someone lazy to learn from the ants. Because do the ants need a king to tell them to work? Nope. They just do it. So they'd have food stored for winter. And so we should be more like the ants. So, for instance, if you saw a crayon on the floor or some garbage on the floor here, pieces of paper on the floor here in the church, what should you do? Just walk on by, right? Pick it up, right. Even if what if you didn't drop it, Peyton? Should you still pick it up? Yes. I like these answers. It's good to help. And you can be wise and decide for yourself that's the right thing to do. So now, how many of you have chores or jobs to do at home? Do any of you have work that you have to do at home?
Sometimes I mow my neighbor's lawn.
Max mows his neighbor's lawn. Okay. Do you have to kind of pick up your toys when you're supposed to? Okay. All right. Scarlett and Isla, do you have to help with your little brother and sister sometimes?
Yes.
Yes. And right. And also maybe, Ansel, are you helping with your little brother now? Maybe. Yes, Mom says yes.
I took care of my sister's cat once.
There you go. See?
Sometimes.
Helpers, right? And you need to brush your teeth, comb your hair every morning, pick your toys up, clean off the table after you're done eating. You could help do that. And if you do these things without being told, you're wise like the ant. And now, what are some of the jobs that God wants us to do? Besides obeying our parents and doing the chores. What are other things that we should pray, right? Should we listen? I have that down.
Go
Excellent, Peyton.
Go to church.
Go to church. Sadie, you're right. Be faithful, right? Could we invite a friend to church? Yep.
But family.
And right, bring our family to church and be nice to our family. Wow, you have wonderful ideas. Should we wait for someone to tell us to do these things?
Yes. Sometimes.
Well, if we need to obey our parents, you're right. But if we want to be helpful, we can do it right. And in his sermons, Pastor JJ, he encourages us to do those things if you listen. And so that's what we should be doing. If we're wise like the ants, we should share our faith, listen to others, invite a friend to church, because it helps our church serve God together. And just like the ant colony, we can be just like them, like God created them, be workers for God, right? Okay.
When I'm walking, I step on ants.
And maybe we should just let them live sometimes, I think, don't you think? Because they have a job to do. All right, well, we've got a paper, and Declan, I think I've never asked you to hand anything out. Would you like to hand these papers out? It's a maze with the ants, and it says, take a lesson from the ants. So can you do it? All right, he's going to work at that. Thank you for listening.